State Senator John Kavanagh here for another edition of Kavanagh's Corner, my video constituent report. This issue of Kavanagh's Corner is meant to inform you about what Attorney General Chris Mays did a little over a week ago, the reaction of everybody, especially police, to it, and why she needs to retract her statement and resign from office. During a TV interview, she made statements about the use of force law as it applies to using deadly force against police officers that could easily mislead people into believing that in certain circumstances they could shoot to kill SWAT team members, individual officers that making plainclothes or detectives making plainclothes arrests. It was an extremely dangerous statement. I'm not going to go into the details in this introductory section of Kavanaugh's Corner, but an interview that I had with the reporter who originally interviewed her goes over all of those facts and explains why Attorney General Chris Mays endangered police lives, why she was wrong, why she needs to retract her statement, and why she needs to resign. So now you can watch that video and get the whole story.
We start with mounting calls for Democratic Attorney General Chris Mays to retract the statements she made in a recent 12 News interview. Mays said she was concerned about the potential for an Arizona gun law to result in citizen shootings of masked ICE agents with no identification. Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs has called for Mays to retract the statements. And this past week, the state Senate approved Republican Majority Leader John Kavanagh's resolution to call on Mays to retract her statements and resign. John Kavanagh joins us right now. Welcome back to Square Off.
Thank you for having me.
Why put the resolution to a vote when you know Mays is just going to ignore it?
Because we need to make a public statement. The Arizona legislature represents the people, and we need to publicly state that this is wrong. What this other government official did was not only wrong, but dangerous to police.
Speak to what you think is wrong about what she said.
Her statements regarding when people can use deadly force, shoot at cops, were factually incorrect. They were vague, subjective, and they were incomplete. The use of force law is very complicated. I teach it in college, in a college course. It's extremely nuanced and complicated. And A.G. Mays distilled it to a soundbite, which was part of a political statement she was making. Cops deserve better than that.
Now that she's rejected it, are you thinking of next steps?
Well,
or does it just end here?
Well, the only two things that can be done are the voters can reject her on Election Day, and I think after this they will. We could try to impeach her, but the problem there is that requires a 2/3 vote for removal, and every Democrat not only didn't criticize what she said in the Senate the other day, but they praised it and said that she was great, and she defended the homeowners being evicted, which was irrelevant.
Last year, the Senate mulled impeaching Chris Mays. That went nowhere. There's some who say this is just a political statement being made with A.G. Mays being up for re-election, just like that impeachment appeared to be a year ago.
To the contrary, A.G. Mays' statement bashing ICE was the political statement, and she mixed in misinformation about shooting cops, and that's what caused the problem. And then when she was given the opportunity to recant, rather than clarify what she was saying, she said, oh, I just didn't mean that cops got hurt. Well, fine, I didn't say she did, but she didn't change the misinformation. And as a result, the cops are still at risk. All the major police groups are opposing her. Even the governor said that her statements were inappropriate and she should recant. I mean, when the head of your party says you're wrong, maybe you should recant. You're on the sinking Titanic and you're in trouble when you see the captain go overboard before you.
And Attorney General Mays, after our interview on 12 News, said in a social media video last weekend, quote, "The last thing in the world I want is to put any Arizonan or any member of law enforcement in danger."
Then she needs to recant. She needs to take back the misinformation, which will cause some citizens to perhaps erroneously shoot at cops when they can't legally and wind up being tried for murder, which will prevent cops from being harmed. She's created a lot of problems. And by the way, this is now a defense. We've often heard the term ignorance of the law is no excuse. That's not true. There are times when ignorance of the law is an excuse against a criminal charge. And that time would be when an official, government official charged with interpreting the law tells you it's okay to do something. That's what Chris Mays just said about shooting plainclothes cops or cops that aren't that identified. So now we're going to have a situation where people who mistakenly shoot cops under her advice, or people who intentionally shoot them, gangbangers, cartel members, when they're on trial for murder, the star defense witness will be Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays, because they'll claim they were using the Mays defense for shooting cops.
I want to go in another direction. What do you think of this argument among Republicans over whether people should bring guns to protests? Some say no. Kash Patel, Donald Trump said shouldn't do it. Here in Arizona, you are allowed to do it. We've seen it at the Capitol many times.
Sure. Second Amendment applies to demonstrations. It applies pretty much everywhere except sensitive sites like jails and courthouses. Yeah, I have no problem with that. That's every person's right. But I will say this. If you go to a demonstration intending or having the high likelihood of confronting police and fighting with them, then don't be surprised if in the tussle you wind up getting shot by mistake.
Shot several times, as that protester was in Minneapolis?
Well, as I mentioned, I have my doctoral dissertation in criminal justice was on the use of force by police. And it is a well-researched scientific fact, going back to Vietnam soldiers and cops on the street, that in a tense situation where guns are at play and one cop hears a shot, the other cops will tend to fire. It's called sympathetic fire. They assume that the person's shooting at them, and it's all self-defense. So having a gun when you intend to wrestle with a cop is really a stupid thing to do.
Well, we don't know if that person intended to wrestle with a cop.
That person was seen on a video 11 days earlier, and I saw the video, right? Spitting at an ICE vehicle, screaming at the officers, and he chased the vehicle and kicked out the rear taillight. That person was an agitator who was there to confront the ICE officers. Why he brought a gun when he knew he was going to be possibly involved in a physical altercation is beyond me. It was terrible judgment. Terrible judgment?
Is it his fault he was shot?
I think he contributed to the situation. I think he was shot because people like Democratic governors are vilifying ICE, telling people they're Nazis. They're pulling back local police, so they're not there to maintain control. So you wind up having these tumultuous situations with yelling, screaming, whistles, people blocking ICE. It causes chaos, and that is the recipe for tragedy. And it's not the ICE officers' fault. They're put in that situation by the demonstrators and the politicians who are making points, vilifying them and calling them Gestapo.
ICE does have a choice, don't they? They have agency here. They know what the situation is. And in watching them, I wonder, you've studied police conduct. Do you think their conduct will be acceptable at a big city police department?
We did the same thing. I can tell you how many times as a cop I was involved in trying to arrest somebody, the person was resisting, and there were 3 or 4 of us trying to control the person. It becomes a wild scene. You can't see everything. And I'll tell you this, I don't know exactly what happened, but he had a gun. The gun was removed in the middle of a tussle. The cop saw the gun. At that point, whoever the cop was who saw the gun screamed gun. The rest of the cops now knew this was a potential deadly force encounter. The gun was removed, but the other cops might not have seen the gun being removed. Therefore, they're watching the hands, and any gesture which could look like drawing for a gun could reasonably interpret it as he's pulling a gun to shoot us. That would justify what they did.
One of the criticisms leveled by Democrats and AG Mays is that Republicans, in this case, are standing with law enforcement officers, and yet when Donald Trump pardoned 250 people who were convicted of assaulting law enforcement officers, Republicans didn't say anything. Was President Trump wrong to pardon those convicts?
Okay. Well, I don't think everybody there assaulted cops. I saw the video.
Okay. Let's just talk about 250 on January 6th.
I would not have pardoned people who attack cops. There's no excuse for that.
Going to end it there. Majority Leader John Kavanagh, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.